Good evening, Tembegile. Indeed, on the domestic front, persistent and heightened load shedding is definitely some of the issues that the industry continues to face, and that continues to be a factor that is weighing heavily on the energy-intensive mining sector, and also remains a key downside risk to the country's growth potential. And for a little bit more on the direction we can expect the country's mining sector to take, I'm now joined by mining analyst Peter Major, who is the Director of Mining at Modern Capital. Peter, thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's start here, Peter. South Africa is a major coal producer, and we are seeing that prices are on the rise, which is a good thing, right? So how do we explain the long queues of trucks waiting to load and unload that we see in places such as Richards Bay? What are some of the issues there, and how's that affecting the industry?
Look, I think most people in South Africa can easily see what the issues are if they watch the news, and definitely if they read a newspaper. They don't even have to read Financial Mail. If they read a newspaper or they open their eyes, they can see the railroads are in a horrible state. Eskom is in a horrible state. Crime and theft, unemployment. So all those are working against the mining companies. They've probably never been attacked on so many fronts. You know, electricity, can't get their diesel, can't get their iron ore and their coal moved on rail. In fact, they can't even get it moved on conveyor belts. Everything's being sabotaged. So in the old times, 30, 40, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, miners were working against nature. But now they're having to work against human beings. You know, the nature part they do in their sleep. But it's all of our infrastructure. And there's a reason governments put a big effort in infrastructure in properly run countries, because that infrastructure is the skeleton and the lifeblood of a being. So that's what the mining companies are facing. You know, bad electricity reliability, bad transport, high cost, unreliable, and crime and theft always present.
Now, Peter, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy wants to take on these headwinds straight ahead, and last year said that it would take about 49 billion rand to rehabilitate more than 6,000 derelict mines. Will this have any significant contribution to the industry growing?
That's a very important question. I think the audience needs to know. A lot of those mines would have been open had it not been for the DMR. You know, the layers and layers of legislation, policy changes, amendments. You know, miners are being buried in paperwork, admin, bureaucracy, and rules and regulations that have not been thought through. That's what led to the closure of most of those mines. Okay, the falling infrastructure also helped them close. So now they're sitting with a lot of mines that should be running. We are in a 20-year super cycle. The world has never seen this in 10,000 years. We are seeing prices that have just gone on and on year after year for nearly 2 decades now. And yet we're busy passing legislation and policies that makes it harder to run a mine and makes it almost impossible to open a mine. So yes, now we're sitting with all these abandoned mines. You know, even if they had the 50 billion to rehabilitate them, they don't have the people or the competence to rehabilitate them. The best people to rehabilitate mines are operating mines, because you can coerce them, discuss with them. If you have to, you threaten them, you can fine them. They've got all the facilities, the manpower, the know-how, how to rehabilitate. But if you make the burden so hard that miners just close and leave in the night, then it's going to cost 3, 4, 5 times as much to rehabilitate.
Now, Peter, as a final question, obviously we're heading to the mining Indaba in a couple of weeks, and it is, of course, an opportunity for industry players, you know, and investors to network and find some of those solutions that you're saying are the challenges facing the industry. When we zone into South Africa, what do you think needs to be done to really attract that investment back into the sector that will help, you know, kind of speed up the growth and the revival that we're looking for in the sector?
The most important people at this Indaba would be government. They are the ones that can make the biggest difference. We can have all the industry executives there, Rio Tinto, Billiton, Anglos. they can't do 10 to 20% of what a government minister can do. If we just had proper policies in a government that genuinely wanted investment, that genuinely wanted job growth, they could take the stage and you could hear a pin drop out of thousands of delegates. They have the power, the ability, the authority to turn all this around. So they are the most important player of all, and usually they're noticed by their absence or they just fly in and fly out. But if they could bring as many government ministers down here and put balls and chains so they have to stay here for 4 days, that would do more good than all the investment people and mining people put together.
Peter, we're going to have to leave it there for this evening, but we certainly hope that we see some of that action in the mining indaba, seeing, government stakeholders taking a little bit more control of the direction that they're looking to see the mining industry go.